On Wednesday, 2nd of August 1876, legendary American West Frontier scout, gunfighter and lawman James Butler Wild Bill Hickok met his unfortunate demise at the age of just 39 when he was shot to death in the town of Deadwood Gulch in the Black Hills of Dakota. Wild Bill is probably the most famous Deadwood resident, even though he was only in town for a few short weeks. James Butler Hickok arrived in Deadwood along with Colorado Charlie Utter and Calamity Jane in July of 1876. He was a well-known gambler, gunslinger, participating in many shootouts before coming to Deadwood. Hickok's family emigrated from England in 1635 to Massachusetts, where his great-grandfather responded to the British March on Lexington and Concord at the beginning of the American Revolution. Hickok's father moved his family from Vermont to Maine to Homer, now Troy Grove, Illinois. There, the family's small farm served as a stop on the Underground Railroad. Hickok left home at age 17 and worked as a canal boat pilot in Utica, in Illinois, before heading west in 1856 to Bleeding, Kansas, which at the time was embroiled in a violent conflict over whether slavery should be permitted there. Hickok joined the anti-slavery Free State Army of Jayhawkers, and having already become skilled with a gun as a youth, served as a bodyguard for General James H. Lanes. During this period, Hickok prevented a man from beating an 11-year-old boy who grew up to become Buffalo Bill Cody, Hickok's longtime friend, and we will talk more about Buffalo Bill in another video. Hickok, however, he had a growing reputation for fairness and courage, and it earned him in 1858 a position as a constable in Monticello, Kansas. Later that year, he became a teamster with the great freighting enterprise Russell, Majors and Waddell, creators of the Pony Express, for which he was too tall and heavy to be a rider. It was at this time that Hickok came across a bear blocking a road. On encounter that would become part of the law surrounding him, Hickok shot the bear, which only angered it, and a struggle ensued, during which Hickok used a knife to slit the bear's throat, but not before he was nearly crushed to death. Hickok was bedridden for months before he went to southern Nebraska in the summer of 1861 to work at the Pony Express station at Rock Creek. Wild Bill was playing poker at Nuttall and Mann's Saloon, and although he always made sure that he sat with his back to the wall so that he could always see who was coming to the saloon, the only seat on this occasion when he joined the poker game was one that put his back to the saloon door. He asked another player, Charles Rich, twice to change seats with him, and on both occasions Rich would refuse. During the poker game, a desperado from Texas, former buffalo hunter Crooked-Nosed Jack McCall, entered the saloon unnoticed. McCall walked to within a few feet of Hickok, drew his pistol and shouted, "Damn you, take that," before shooting Hickok in the back of the head, killing him instantly. The bullet emerged through Hickok's right cheek, striking Captain Massey, another player, in the left wrist. According to a legend, at the time of his demise, Hickok was holding a hand that included a pair of black aces and a pair of black eights, along with an unknown hole card, a combination that has since become known as the infamous Dead Man's Hand. The idea that Wild Bill Hickok was holding black aces and eights when he was killed comes to us from Frank J. Wilstack, whose biography Wild Bill Hickok, the Prince of Pistoliers, was published in 1926. Wilstack's was the most thoroughly researched and accurate account of Hickok's life that had appeared up to that time. He corresponded with people who had known Hickok, including Ellis Taylor Doc Pierce, who at the time of the killing was the Deadwood town barber. After Hickok was shot, the authorities locked the doors to the saloon in which the killing occurred and called on Pierce to prepare the body for burial. In his letter to Wilstack, Pierce gave several details that had not previously been revealed. Doc Pierce was the impromptu undertaker who took charge of the remains and looked after the details of the burial. Now, in regard to the position of Bill's body, writes Pierce, when they unlocked the door for me to get to his body, he was lying on his side with his knees drawn up just as he slid off his stool. We had no chairs in those days, and his fingers were still crimpled from holding his poker hand. Charlie Rich, who sat behind him, said he never saw a muscle move. Bill's hand read aces and eights, 2 pair, and since that day, aces and eights have been known as the dead man's hand. It seemed like fate. Bill's taking off of the murderer's big Colt 45-6 gun, every chamber loaded. The cartridge that killed Bill was the only one that would fire. What would have been McCall's chances if he had snapped one of the other cartridges when he sneaked up and held his gun to Bill's head? He would now be known as number 37 on the file of Mr. Hickok.